Talk of Champions Short Sessions. I'm your host, Zach Berry. Probably going to try to come up with, some kind of name for this show. My buddy Grayson Weir is here with us again. We'll have it'll be Grayson, we'll have some others. We'll have a sort of a consistent guest list for you every Monday morning to get your week started. But before we get to Grayson and the topics on hand this morning, I want to remind you about College Corner Store, who powers this here show and the Talk of Champions studio. If you're not familiar with College Corner and you're in Mississippi or in the Mid-South area, make sure to check them out. 3 locations now. They got Ridgeland, they got Flowood, and in Oxford, Mississippi. Go check them out on Sisk Avenue. Maybe you need to get a couple things, maybe a couple new merch items before you head to Lexington for Ole Miss, Kentucky tomorrow, Tuesday. Maybe you just want to get some new merch for yourself, hanging around the house, going to Ole Miss baseball games as the season gets cranked up this Friday. But yeah, check them out. Sisk Avenue, Suite 105. That's 825 Sisk Avenue, Suite 105. They have Realtree gear. They've got Peach Bowl Champions gear. They've got polos. They got T-shirts. They have gifts. They got tailgating supplies, all of that and more at College Corner. If you are not local or can't make your way to any of the 3 locations, check them out, collegecornerstore.com, for pretty much anything you need as an Ole Miss fan, for your closet, for your shelf, for your office, all of that and more at College Corner. All right, with that, let's bring in my guy, Grayson Weir. Grayson, Monday after the Super Bowl, fighting a 4-year-old this morning, said he didn't want to go to school. Too bad. That's life, so.
I mean, to the credit
we're here
there.
now. It's better now.
We're here now, and to the 4-year-old's credit, do any of us want to do anything on the Monday after the Super Bowl? Why have we as a country not collectively decided that President's Day, a holiday that should not and has no business existing to begin with, cannot just move it up a week? Just bump it up a week. Yeah. Move it to the Monday after the Super Bowl instead of a random Monday in February. Nobody needs to be doing anything today, but that's just me standing on my soapbox.
I think it's probably universally celebrated that the Monday after the Super Bowl is just an admin day for most people.
Ain't that the truth?
Okay,
but that's not what we're doing here. We're bringing you all the hard-hitting news.
Not us. We're built different. But yeah, it's probably a lot of, I'm just going to be clearing out my inbox and, hanging out. But we're here. Like you said, let's get into some Ole Miss news and notes, as it was weird. I know a lot of people were pissed over the weekend, mad at Kentucky, because Kentucky just had to play Gonzaga over the weekend. And look, this is okay. This is like Nevada. Is it Gonzaga or Gonzaga? I can never remember. I'm pretty sure it's Gonzaga.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because
I'm going to abstain.
Yeah, I can effort real quick, because you say Zags, like, for short.
True. Good point.
So why would you say Zags, but then it's Gonzaga?
No, that's a good.
Because then it would just be Zogs.
I use them interchangeably. My buddy from Spokane, if he's listening right now, which he's not, because somebody from Spokane is not listening to an Ole Miss related podcast. But he
not Spokane.
Yes. Okay. And he is not happy with me not knowing how to pronounce Gonzaga or Gonzaga.
Gonzaga. I think it's Gonzaga.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
But then Zags.
Shout out to Spokane. Famously, the hometown for Sydney Sweeney.
Yep. And
I'm 36, but I know who she is now. She's very famous.
There was a few players on that Bulldogs team who shot their shot at Sweeney a couple months ago. Well, it was a whole thing. It was pretty funny.
I just thought about randomly, because I think it was. Oh, she gave like Jimmy Fallon a signed basketball with all their autographs. But then also my wife was fired up last night for the new Twisters movie that's coming out.
Is she in that?
She's not, but Glenn Powell is, who was in a movie with her. That's where sorry, that was a very
I'm seeing
30
that movie tonight.
connecting the dots thing. So yeah, my wife's fired up for the new Twisters. It's not a remake; it's like a sequel.
Yep. There's two tornadoes now.
Yeah, update to the '96 film Twister, which centered on a pair of storm chasers. Yeah, I saw a double feature when I was younger: Twister and Independence Day. How about that?
That's quite a double
At the
feature.
drive-in. At the drive-in.
Surely that you left that feeling very confident in your standing in society, knowing full well that tornadoes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
aliens were coming any day now.
Look, it's fine. Nobody's gonna get hurt because Jeff Goldblum, Will Smith, Bill Pullman, they're all out there defending our freedom from the aliens. But
They
all right,
got us.
speaking of aliens, let's get into this Kentucky team and how ridiculously up and down they are. No disrespect with the aliens reference because they're super talented.
Oh, I thought it was a good transition because they have some freaks on that roster.
I mean, so I made the reference to Kentucky's roster a couple weeks ago when they announced the McDonald's All-American game roster. John Bowl, Ole Miss signee, makes the cut. Technically, it's the second Ole Miss player to ever be selected. Deshaun Ruffin, who was selected, ended up opting for the Iverson Classic, which was a lot of fun. Got to go watch him perform there. Hang out with Big Sheed Wallace. So that was cool. But he was selected, didn't make it, went to Iverson Classic. But now John Bowl will be in the game. I bring this up because John Calipari at Kentucky, so not including Memphis, at Kentucky alone, he has had 48 McDonald's All-Americans. It's absurd. But yeah, so we can filter in some Ole Miss stuff here and there, but I do want to get into this because it's very interesting to me and it's mind-blowing. One national title, which look, you got one. A lot of people don't get one. So that's a big deal. What do you attribute to the struggles that Calipari's had? Because I don't buy he's not a good coach, or people don't forget how to coach. Sometimes you don't adjust well, or the game has changed. People around you have changed. I think that's more of it. It's just the conference is so much better.
Yep.
Whereas, 6-7 years ago when the SEC was just kind of like, it's the offseason. We're just going to wait for baseball and football. Now everybody in the conference cares. You've got great coach after great coach after great coach on your schedule. I think it's more of that. And then, man, it's such a delicate dance to get all those talented freshmen in and thrust them into playing time. But what do you think is the real kind of, issue? I don't want to say it's like Kentucky still wins. Like they're still good,
Right.
but they're not getting to the Final Four.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I don't think it's really Coach Cal. I mean, yes, are there times like even that Gonzaga game on Saturday? First of all, I owe an apology to the Zags. I did not think that they were going to be able to go into Lexington and win that game after the way that they performed in some of that West Coast Conference schedule this year. And they went in there and made a statement win. So credit to the Bulldogs first and foremost. But Kentucky, I mean, there were multiple chances for Kentucky to win that game. I mean, they got behind in the first half. You can't do that at home. You just can't.
Right.
You can't go down 10 points at halftime at home. But they came storming back in the second half and had multiple chances to win it down the stretch, and they just couldn't close the gap. And I think that's an attribute you can attribute that to, like you said, kind of trying to get all these young guys in there. I mean, when you look at their roster, they have one fifth year, one grad student, Reeves and Brennan Canada. Canada doesn't play. Reeves is obviously very important to that team. But the rest of the team is freshmen and sophomores. That's kind of the way that Cal does this. And that's difficult when you're relying on these guys for big moments and big pressure spots at home when your job is on the line. Everybody knows about the criticism. They're reading everything on social media. It gets in your head, and that's a difficult thing to overcome. Do I think Kentucky's going to be fine? Absolutely. They're a great team. They're going to figure it out. They're really just starting to play their best ball. And I know that kind of sounds ironic because they're on a little bit of a downswing over these last few games here, and they've got 7 losses, whatever. But they're really starting to kind of figure out their identity. And once they actually figure it out and really get it to click, they're going to be much better than they were on Saturday. But like you said, it's just a matter of how do you handle distributing minutes? How do you distribute the ball? How do you make sure that everybody gets theirs? And then how do you factor into a game plan where a Gonzaga team played really small and they only played really 5 guys, really 6 guys throughout the whole game. I mean, they're starting five had 38 minutes, 31 minutes, 24 minutes, 40 minutes, 37 minutes. So you're looking at those guys are just carrying the load. Whereas Kentucky, you're mixing in 8, 9 guys, and you've got to figure out who guards what, who does this, how does this person fit that? And Cal hasn't had time to figure that out, whereas Mark Few has. He's had a few years to figure out this roster. He understands his guys. He knows what's going on there. He knows who matches up well and just relies on his guys to get the job done. And so I don't think it's Cal. Do I think that his game plans fall apart down the stretch? Sure. But Kentucky has such a high standard. I mean, if Chris Beard wasn't a thing and Cal wanted to come to Oxford, every single person would welcome with open arms in a minute, or at least anyone sane would welcome him with open arms. So we'll see. I think Tuesday, or when is that game? That's tomorrow. Yeah, Tuesday is it's going to be a struggle. I mean, that game last Tuesday against South Carolina was, my goodness. Was Morrell fouled? Probably. Should they have put themselves in that position? No, absolutely not. You can't go down 12 on the road.
So my thing about it was, almost dug the early hole.
Yep.
But Beard mentioned the staff, they were fully prepared for that moment.
Yeah.
And so they executed, it just didn't work.
No, I had no problem with the final shot. I really don't.
I think he knew, because South Carolina had foul to give, correct?
Yep.
And so he was banking on, as soon as you get it across the timeline, they're going to try to foul.
Yep.
And, he probably told Morrell or Flanagan, whoever had it, hey, when they come to you, we need to get a shot off to try to get some free throws. So, yeah, I didn't hate it. I think that's – either way, even if Morrell that would have been a heads-up play by Morrell. But, that's what they had planned. It just didn't work. But, yeah, the chances late in that game to really get a big road win, which again, it's a good, in basketball with the net ranking, it's a good loss. Like it's on the road.
South Carolina's a great team.
Yeah. What, 21-3 now? So I think this is a huge opportunity for Ole Miss at Kentucky. It's a place pretty sure Ole Miss I don't know if Ole Miss has ever won at Rupp.
Oh, it ain't happening tomorrow.
If Ole Miss has won, it's been a long time, because obviously Ole Miss has defeated Kentucky in Oxford.
Yep.
A couple times, I believe. But my thing here is more the focus on Kentucky and Calipari, because and I know that this is Kentucky, and Kentucky's kind of the the Ohio State or the Michigan or the Alabama or the whoever with college football, where it's this
blue blood
look down your nose at you about everything. But look at Calipari's run. So it's been 12 years since Kentucky won it all. 2011, 2012. His first, 5 seasons at Kentucky. You ready? 35-3, Elite 8. 29-9, Final Four. 38-2, national champs. NIT, they went 21-12, went to the NIT, had to reload. And then the next year, 29-11, runner-up, lost to UConn. Then you have 38-1, Final Four, 27-9, round of 32, 32-6, Elite 8, 26-11, Sweet 16, 30-7, Elite 8. The real one that's kind of a bummer was the COVID season. The NCAA tournament was canceled. Regular season SEC champs.
They were awesome.
I mean, that was a team with you had Nick Richards, EJ Montgomery, Emmanuel Quickley, Tyrese Maxey, Ashton Hagans, You had Johnny Juzang coming off the bench, Keon Brooks. It was a really good team. Pretty crazy. Lost in November to Evansville by 3.
I do
And then
remember that.
and then they lose to a top 5 Ohio State on the road at South Carolina. Number 17 Auburn beats them. Tennessee beats them. And then everything's canceled once the tournament starts. So this hasn't been some like complete failure. After that, 9-16, bad year. Then they go 26-8, get to the round of 64, 22-12, round of 32. This year, we're looking at what? Kentucky is 16-7. They're 5th in the SEC. Plenty of time to still figure things out. I was looking at
And
some
they
of the
will.
latest. Yeah, I mean, Calipari has shown that if, and I almost say if he has the talent, because he always does, they're going to figure some things out. Right now, I feel like a really good offensive team, defensively, not very good. Like,
Yep.
it's not a terrible defense, but they're not really shutting people down. A lot of high scoring games, a lot of close finishes. That's kind of the scouting report on Kentucky right now. Probably looking at least per ESPN, somewhere in the 6-7 seed range, which I get Kentucky fans are really pissed about that and think that's beneath them as a fan base. But hey, you just get in the tournament and then just go from there.
Yeah, figure it out once you get in.
So I don't know. I the thing I said this about Saban all the time. You're like, Nick Saban's going to retire this year, then he doesn't. Nick Saban's going to retire after this year, then he doesn't. It was always for me. It was like I'll believe it when I see it type thing because I think Saban caught everybody off guard when he retired this year.
Yep.
Like, I don't think anybody anticipated it. So the whole Calipari, like Kentucky moving on from Calipari, like I'll believe that when I see it. I just don't. In my opinion, he's gonna have to really fall flat on his face multiple years in a row before he's canned.
You have to miss the tournament to start before you let him go. Because who are you going to get this better than Coach Cal? You're not. I mean, maybe you get one of the rising stars, the Dustin Mays or whatever the world, like Dusty Mays of the world. Like,
are you replacing Calipari with Dusty May though?
No.
Nobody. I was talking with our boy Austin Gray about this the other day of Hit That Line fame. Who are you upgrading with? Who could you possibly upgrade, like resume wise? And I know on the court matters more, but the resume is from on the court results. But I mean, outside of the big name coaches, nobody has as good a resume as Calipari.
No. I mean, you're looking at, so I just did a quick Google search here. Some of the names. Scott Drew, I don't think that's an upgrade from Cal. Nate Oates, definitely not an upgrade from Cal. Must Bus, as much as I love Eric Musselman, friend of the program, not an upgrade. Mark Few, not an upgrade. Kiss Beard might be an upgrade, but there's some bias there. Billy Donovan, Mick Cronin, like none of those names. Why would you move on from Cal for any of those guys?
Right. They're all good coaches who have had big time success, but not sustained success over the years like Calipari's had.
Yep.
Now, maybe we get to the point where it's just kind of a bad marriage and it's time to move on. No hard feelings. But I don't see Kentucky doing that when he's getting 5-star after 5-star after 5-star every recruiting class. Because
and they're good. They're a good team.
He's missed the tournament twice in his career at Kentucky.
And they were both rebuilding years before the transfer portal and before the one and done.
Yeah. So I don't know. Can Ole Miss win on Tuesday? Absolutely. I think Ole Miss can absolutely put the clamps down on a young Kentucky team. Look, I think Ole Miss thrives in forcing turnovers, speeding people up, getting pressure. And then I think right now, the big thing for Ole Miss is the rebounding.
Yeah.
You cannot win rebounding battles. And it's crazy. I know people are pulling their hair out. How does Ole Miss have 2 7-footers and cannot rebound the basketball? Rebounding, it's kind of like tackling in football. it's all effort, position. Like it's not just being big and tall.
Yep.
Like just because you're big and strong in football doesn't mean you're going to be a great tackler or be good in space. Basketball, same thing. You can be 7'4". If you have poor position, poor effort, you don't know. I know a lot of it is Dennis Rodman kind of trailblazed the whole prep for rebounding with learning how to see where the ball is going.
Yep.
Like working on, okay, if it's going off the back iron, it's going off the front, if it's short, if it's
where's it going to fall?
Like that sort of like, because he had to, because he was what, 6'8", 6'9". So Dennis Rodman wasn't a big dude in the NBA, but he's the best rebounder ever in the history of the game. I just think right now every loss. Here's the good thing for Ole Miss: still a good resume, work left to do. I think Ole Miss has to win all of their home games and trip somebody up at some point and win one that you're not supposed to.
Yep. Same as I think the same blueprint that we laid out this time a week ago for sure.
Yeah. Because here's the good thing: 2 games against Missouri, got to win both of those. And then road games at Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Georgia, got to at least get 1, if not 2.
I think you got to get 2.
And then you get revenge match against South Carolina at home, Alabama, and A&M to close it out. So I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to just waltz into Rupp and win. But again, like you said, got to get out to a hot start, take the crowd out of it. That's a big thing in college basketball when you're on the road.
100% it is.
Now, Ole Miss is an older team, a lot of experience. Dudes have played a lot of basketball, been in these kinds of environments, but getting in there early, hitting shots, creating turnovers, taking the crowd out of it is big. But I do think that Calipari's teams over time, now we're getting into mid-February, so things are starting to take shape, but those younger, uber talented guards and wings, when you speed up the game a little bit, you get them thinking before they do things or not thinking before they do things. That's when you can get Kentucky in trouble. And I think going to have to defend the perimeter because they shoot the ball well. But yeah, I'm not saying it's just a guaranteed loss. It's going to be tough. It's hard to win at Rupp, and Kentucky's super talented. But if anybody can have a game plan that's going to challenge Calipari and Kentucky, it's going to be Chris Beard. Are you looking at cutting your health insurance premiums by as much as 20 to 30%? Are you aging into Medicare and need help finding a Medicare supplement plan? Call Drew Moak of USA Benefits Group at 601-953-8449. Drew is an Ole Miss grad located in Mississippi and licensed in 7 states. He works with the nation's 2nd largest health insurance brokerage with access to 35 different carriers, and he can help you with any of your health insurance needs. From regular health plans to life insurance to dental and vision and even Medicare, he has it all covered. Now more than ever, it is critical to have a health insurance agent who is local and accessible. So call Drew Moak at 601-953-8449 and get your free quote today.
The College Corner is headed to Oxford. Stop by their new location in the Oxford Commons off Sisk Avenue. They'll have 4,000 square feet of Rebel gear ready for your trip to the Grove. On your next trip to Oxford, stop by the College Corner or our other great locations in Ridgeland and Flowood. Hats, shirts, polos, pullovers, sweats, t-shirts. College Corner has it all. And as always, you can visit us online at collegecornerstore.com. That's collegecornerstore.com. The College Corner, where your game day apparel meets.
A new year has arrived. What's your resolution for 2024? How about making sure the roof over your head is well taken care of? Riverland Roofing is here for all your roofing needs. Whether it's an inspection, a new roof, or a maintenance program, Riverland Roofing has you covered, home or business, to give you peace of mind in the new year. As a GAF Master Elite contractor, they can offer warranties that last a lifetime. Riverland Roofing is licensed and insured to service Mississippi and its surrounding states. So give Riverland Roofing a call today and make sure you and yours are protected all year round. Call Riverland Roofing at 662-644-4297. That's 662-644-4297. Visit them online at riverlandroofing.com, riverlandroofing.com. It's Riverland Roofing for all of your roofing needs, a proud sponsor of the Talk of Champions podcast network.
I don't feel good about this game. I just don't. You're coming off. Kentucky's angry now. They're at home. It's Cal's like coaching, not for his job, but he's coaching for his job. The same
He
thing.
certainly knows the question marks are there.
Yeah, and so you can't lose to Ole Miss at home. You just can't. So I don't think that's going to happen. But if it is going to happen, this is why you bring in Cisse and why you bring in Sharp. This is their legacy games. Like we've talked about how Flanagan stepped up at times, Morrell stepped up at times, Murray stepped up at times, like whatever, that's great. All of that is fine. You can have the guards step up and score points and get the job done. But if Ole Miss is going to go into Rupp on Tuesday night and win this game, you're going against Kentucky literally, the first 7-footer is injured, no problem. We'll put in the second 7-footer. Oh, the second 7-footer is injured or in foul trouble, no problem. We'll go to Big Z, the 7'2", 235-pound Croatian dude who is probably going to be one of the better late draft picks in this upcoming NBA draft, unless he chooses to stick around another year. So you've got to be able to Sharp and Cisse, assuming that Sharp is still. It was nice to see him back on the floor against South Carolina, though, and obviously 18 minutes isn't enough, I don't think. And Cisse playing 16 minutes, also not enough against a team like Kentucky. Both of those guys have to be closer to 20 or more. And it's Cisse, Cisse's 7 foot, Sharp is 7'5". Very few games that Kentucky plays this year will they have a disadvantage in terms of height. This is probably the only game where they all have a disadvantage in terms of height because Sharp's the tallest player in the country. So you have to have those guys, they have to rebound one. But if they're not going to rebound, which they haven't, and it's extremely frustrating, fine. We can even put that aside. They need to at least clog the lanes and allow the guards to get in and get those boards. Otherwise, you're going into Rupp and you are just getting absolutely gobsmacked by that home crowd, by really talented team and 3 7-foot guys. So if Cisse and Sharp don't play, this is a legacy game for Cisse, I think. Sharp obviously he's a great player, but he's coming from Western Kentucky. He doesn't have the same hype as a guy like Cisse. But Cisse, this is a legacy game. If he can go in tomorrow and really, this is why you bring him in. This is why you go get him from the transfer portal. This is why you fight the NCAA on his eligibility and make sure that he can play this season for a game like tomorrow. If Ole Miss has any chance of beating Kentucky at Kentucky, Sharp and Cisse need to be the primary factors in this game. Otherwise, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, I think you need to stay out of foul trouble with the big men.
Yeah, that's a big key too.
Your stars are going to have to be stars on the road. That's big in college basketball. Morrell, Flanagan, Jalen Murray, got to score, got to get buckets.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, I think, does a lot of damage when they attack off the bounce and get to the rim, get to the free throw line. It's kind of
havoc.
Yeah. Beard's MO is always really gritty defense, really attack you, challenge you on ball defending, but then also really forcing you to defend the entire floor and defend all the way to the rim. I think it's going to be big for Ole Miss to try to slow down Antonio Reeves, Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepherd, those guys that score in bunches. Can't let them get hot. Can't let the crowd get into it. So again, on the road, at this point with the resume and kind of where it's at, you have to be a little realistic as an Ole Miss fan. I think basically, obviously winning, great, love it. Can't get blown out though. Cannot get embarrassed. You got to. It has to be Ole Miss looks like it belongs on the floor.
Yep. Got to be in the game.
Resume standpoint, eye test, all that. All right. Switching gears here, staying with Ole Miss, Hawaii. Softball was there, I believe, just went 4-0.
4-1.
4-1. Okay.
They dropped the opener to BYU.
Okay. And then baseball heads there. this weekend. Well, I guess they'll be there before Friday, but 4-game swing on the islands, taking on the Warriors. A lot of question marks for Ole Miss. I do know a lot of baseball talking heads are kind of, I think they're watching this Ole Miss team closely, kind of intrigued. It's definitely piquing some interest because of the transfers at Ole Miss. Andrew Fisher, Trayson Hughes, Jackson Ross, Luke Hill.
Whose hair is blonde.
Yes, did do it. I think a lot of people were kind of miffed at Jacob Gonzalez not doing it last year. Still played well, but the tradition goes on with Luke Hill. So a lot of talented transfers at premium positions. Guys will be batting in the middle of the order. You lose his Rivas. His first name is escaping me. You lose a pitcher to UCL, injury, out for the year. Xavier Rivas, good Lord.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of intrigue with this baseball team trying to bounce back from a disappointing year last year. What do you make of this team going into this weekend against? I mean, I think if you're Ole Miss, you expect to go 4-0 against Hawaii, but Ethan Groff back in center, Ethan Leger, John Kramer, Judd Uttermark. You've got Fisher at third base, the Duke transfer that is a unit. Jackson Ross at first, Luke Hill shortstop. Mentioned Trayson Hughes, he'll be in the outfield. Freshman behind the dish at catcher U. The tradition goes on. Campbell Smithwick, which is a great name. He will be catching. So, yeah, what's kind of your feel on this baseball team as we kind of shift gears to the spring and start to look ahead to baseball season in Oxford?
I think it looks similar to last year, in terms, not in terms of the lineups or in terms of the team itself, but in terms of the outlook. You can only go as far as this staff will take you. Because the lineup, you lose Gonzalez, you lose Calvin Harris, you lose Kemp. All that's fine. Whatever, like McCants and Calarco and Chatinier, like fine, whatever. Like, but you're replacing those guys. You know, Luke Hill actually should be better or just as good as Jacob Gonzalez, maybe not defensively, but in terms of his bat, Jacob, he was swinging fine last year, not great. Luke Hill should be swinging great. Jackson Ross, Trayson Hughes, all the guys you mentioned, I mean, they can slug. I think Andrew Fisher, everybody's sleeping on Andrew Fisher. I mean, he mashed last year at Duke, and Duke is a good program, you know? So I think you're injecting the talent back into the lineup. Will it take a little time to mesh? Sure. You expect to go 4-0 this weekend, the doubleheader, maybe you drop one of the games. Fine, 3-1, like that's okay. In a weird, time zone. They're out in Hawaii. It's weird travel. It's kind of, that's happens. Things like that happen. So you want to go 4-0, 3-1. You're like not disappointed. You're just a little bummed. But you're going as far as the staff can take you. I mean, losing Rivas was just brutal. I mean, that loss can't be understated.
Bad for anybody to lose your Friday starter.
Yeah, that can't be understated. So then you're curious to see, JT Quinn and Saunier, like Saunier, it's they weren't great last year. How much better are they now? We'll see. Hawaii's a good test to start that off. And then you're looking at Arkansas State, High Point. High Point's not awful, so that's not a terrible mid-major team that you're bringing into Oxford for the second weekend. And then you got Iowa, like that's a decent test, one of the better teams in the Big Ten, but still not great. So you have time to figure it out. You're not looking, at a really strong team. Even South Carolina, good, not great. You're not looking at like a must have things figured out in this moment until March 22nd when you go to Knoxville. You got to have things set in stone, have it figured out, have some momentum by the time you travel out to Tennessee. And so there is some time to mesh, and this weekend is going to be that. It is my hope that Mike Bianco is creative this weekend. That's my biggest thing with this entire team. Last year was stagnant. He didn't try a lot. He didn't really mix up the lineup a ton. And when he did, it was mismatched and wonky. I think this year you can look at the starting lineup: JT Quinn, Gunnar Dennis, Saunier, and then Riley Maddox on Sunday. Like that's a good 4, and with the potential to be a really special starting 4. But then their ceiling is just as high as their floor is low. So you really don't know what you're gonna get. And then where does the bullpen go from there? That's a question too. So I think you're going into this year with far less optimism than last year, because last year Ole Miss was so disappointed with how things ended, and it was an ugly year. Your outlook is more optimistic than the end of last year. It is less optimistic than the beginning of last year, if that makes sense. I think you're hesitant. I think you're curious. And like you said, a lot of these national pundits, they're curious. I think this team could swing in either direction, and it's going to take some time to figure it out. So it's nice that the schedule allows you that opportunity to figure out who fits where, what the lineup should look like, what positions, make sense. Like Luke Hill obviously is great, but where do you put him? Do you start him 1 in the lineup and hope that he gets everything going right out the gates? Do you put him 4 and hope that he's able to knock in the 3 guys in front of him? You don't know that yet, and you've got time to figure it out. And this weekend, I hope Mike is creative. It's not the worst thing ever if you go 2-2. It's really not. Sure, will Mississippi State fans laugh? Oh, you lost to, Hawaii. Haha, we beat, Morehead State or whatever. Great, fine, whatever. Who cares? Be creative, be fun, like have some flexibility in what you're doing, and be able to read the situation. If something's not going well, change it. You have the luxury to change it. Even Saturday morning, if that first game, the lineup just cannot hit the ball, no big deal. Flip it on its head for game 2. See if that changes things. So I just hope that Mike is creative. And that's my biggest issue, because I was on the train of, all right, it's time for Mike to go, until he led that team to a national championship. I was hesitant. I've been, frustrated with his decision to pull pitchers 1 batter too late, or oftentimes 1 batter too early. That was all very frustrating to me. They won the national championship. Great. Last year, you can chalk it off as injuries, etc. Fine. Flush it. Last year never happened. Focus on this year. Be creative. Inject some life into this team. Like, you've got all of these guys in your offense that you went and got through the portal. You've got a great recruiting class in 2 straight years. Do something with them. And if what you're doing isn't working, make a change. That's my hope. This Ole Miss team could be very good. It could be very bad. There's really no way to know. And it all comes down to what Mike does. And if Mike is more, I keep using the word creative because I can't think of any other word that fits better in this scenario. If Mike is creative, that is the most positive sign we can see from this weekend. A willingness to step out of his comfort zone, be flexible, mix things up, and try things until he figures out what clicks. That's all I'm looking for this weekend. And 3-1 would be great. 4-0 would be nice. 2-2, not the end of the world.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss should be 4-0 after this weekend.
You would think.
All due respect to Hawaii, you're an SEC program.
Yep.
Should be better top to bottom at every position, on the bump, in the bullpen. But yeah, it's great early runway for Ole Miss to figure things out. I know Bianco mentioned that in his press conference before the opener, or I guess media day, said, hey, we're going to play a lot of guys. We're going to figure out who the best 9 is. It's not going to happen game 1, which, yeah, that's fair. That's kind of how you should go about your lineup. So, yeah, gives them time to figure it out. 4 games at Hawaii, and then you get a couple, I wouldn't call them layup series, but they're not incredibly difficult. So, yeah, you figure out the best 9. But look, I think this team is in a better spot than last year because of the impact transfers, and it's a lot of experience, a lot of older guys, kind of what Kiffin and them have done with the portal, where you get these older, experienced dudes, regardless of where they played a lot of football or a lot of baseball. So, yeah, big cornerstones in that lineup, in that locker room: Luke Hill, Jackson Ross, Trayson Hughes, Andrew Fisher, dudes that have played a lot of baseball and are going to be looked upon to not only produce, but they're going to be looked upon to lead. And then the pitching rotation for me is the big question, because I think Ole Miss is going to hit.
Yes.
I think as a team that will not be an issue. It's
They can only go as far as the staff takes them.
You gotta be able to close games out. I know that was a struggle. Now been a lot of injuries. Dude's been dealing with some nagging injuries or season-ending injuries. With Hunter Elliott, I wouldn't call it a no-show, but I mean, after the national championship run, he's been hurt, and then now it's what are you going to get? What's the deal? So that's a talented arm there that's pitched in a lot of high-pressure, high-leverage situations. So yeah, I think this early slate is going to be huge for Ole Miss to figure out how to piece it together for this season.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see. I mean, Bianco was all about Gunnar Dennis. I don't know when that press conference was. That was either whatever. It was after the Revis injury. Bianco would not shut up in a good way about Gunnar Dennis. And so if Gunnar Dennis is the guy that steps up, that would be special, because what you're going to get from a guy like JT Quinn, or at least you would like to think you are, because he struggled last year. You would assume that there's this sophomore bump, you would hope that there's this second year jump. If you've got a guy like Gunnar Dennis that comes in out of the JUCO ranks, he's pitched, like you said, he's thrown a lot of innings. He knows what he's doing. He played really well in the fall, and they really took a guy who, where was he, Meridian Community College or something like that. Like, it wasn't like he was one of those guys that was out there playing in the Iowa League or whatever the heck, that great JUCO league. Like, it's kind of out of nowhere, local Mississippi guy. Awesome. Like, go get him, bring him in. They threw him to the Wolves. Actually, I think Bianco used that exact expression whenever that press conference was. It threw him to the Wolves in the fall and just said, "Hey, man, like, let's see what you can do. Can you step up and shove?" And he did. And then he's been pitching great all spring. So I think if Gunnar Dennis, like, he could be the difference maker here, and that would be a big help to this team. But like we've said, and I'll stop beating a dead horse here. This team only goes as far as their staff will take him, just like last year. And that worries me, because I don't know about the staff. There's a lot of question marks from top to bottom. I mean, when you're looking at the starters 1 through 4, and then when you look at the bullpen on the back end, you don't really know what you're going to get. So we'll see.
All right. Friday, 10:35 local time, ESPN Plus. Saturday, you got the doubleheader, 5 o'clock, and then 8:30. And then on Sunday, the series finale, 5 o'clock. Looking at the Ole Miss official site, ESPN Plus is listed for Friday's game. I don't see anything else listed for the other games. That doesn't mean you can't watch it. We'll have to figure it out. I'm sure Jake Thompson at the Ole Miss Spirit will have you dialed in if you can watch it. We will let you know.
He always does.
Stay locked in, omspirit.com. And again, hey, if you're heading out to Hawaii, if you're going to go out to Honolulu, make sure to go to College Corner, get you some new polos, maybe a little quarter zip. I don't know what the weather is out in Hawaii, but maybe it's a little chilly for those night games. Maybe you need a little quarter zip, maybe jacket, sweatshirt. You can get all that. College Corner, Sisk Avenue in Oxford, or Ridgeland and Flowood in Mississippi. And if you can't do that, check them out, collegecornerstore.com, for all of your Ole Miss swag needs. All right, basketball tomorrow. I guess I could effort real quick. I assume it will be televised. I'd imagine SEC Network. Let me double check for you here.
I don't know what channel that game is on.
Efforting. ESPN. All right, the big one.
Oh, great.
Nightcap, 8 p.m. in Lexington. So you got ESPN at Kentucky for Ole Miss, as the Rebels will be looking for, what is this going to be? Win number 18?
19? 18, 19?
I think it's 18. Double check.
Yeah, my basketball group chats can be so mad at me when they hear that we win 19. They're 18-5.
Okay, excuse me. My bad.
Yeah.
Took one away from them. Yeah, 18-5, looking for win number 9. Hey, get to 20, man. Before the season, Ben Garrett and I were talking over under 20.5. Can certainly get over.
You have to get over.
I mean, if you don't get over, you're not making the tournament.
Nope.
So I think get over 20 wins, take care of business at home, be in a good spot, make the tournament, in my opinion. That's what I think right now. I think the computers in the committee are solidly in that anywhere from 8 seed, 9 seed to as low as a 12 or 13.
The last I saw, Lenardi had Ole Miss as last four in.
Okay.
But that was, I think, Saturday afternoon before some more craziness. This basketball season, look, I don't know if everyone listening watches as much basketball as I do in terms of like, I watch way too many mid-major games that I probably shouldn't be watching. But this season from top to bottom is fantastic. And Ole Miss being in it is great because there's so much parity across the board. I mean, you're looking at some of the better teams in the country. Utah State is potentially a Sweet 16 team this year. Like
Yeah.
of all the years,
The Mountain West is legit this year.
absolutely, they're potentially a 5 or 6 bid league, which is bananas. But for Ole Miss to be as good as they are, you can beat a team like Utah State. You can beat a BYU. You could beat, some of these teams that are really awesome, but haven't played the big boys. So it's fun that Ole Miss is good in a year where there is all this parity. And to kind of circle it back off the top, this parity is part of what's making Calipari, his struggles. There's so many teams that can win every game. I mean, you never know what you're going to get. Even freaking Texas A&M went in and they played awesome on Saturday, and they've looked pretty terrible at multiple instances throughout the year. So for Ole Miss to be good in a year where there is so much parity, there's some cautious optimism. And my group chat got on me for saying that I would never buy back into this program and then being so positive on our podcast last week. I haven't bought back in yet. I don't know if this team can make a run to the Sweet 16 or Elite Eight, but I'm cautiously optimistic that if the stars align, there's a run in the future.
Speaking of stars aligning, as we were recording this show, or maybe it was right before we hit record, but I am just now seeing it. Deshaun Foster named head coach at UCLA.
Oh, wow.
Former player at UCLA, played for the Panthers, played for the Niners, and then has been on staff at UCLA. For most of his career, he took a brief one-year stint at Texas Tech as a running backs coach. Since then, at UCLA, 2017 to now as a running backs coach.
Wow.
Named head coach.
I'm really surprised by that. I had not seen this news. So this is a reaction in real time for everybody who's listening. I don't know if that's a good hire. As a USC fan, it kind of excites me that they're promoting a running backs coach who has no experience as an offensive coordinator or otherwise. I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised. I thought they would have gone for a bigger name.
We had it on the docket as we were going to discuss the job. We can make it really quick here. Because I put a post on our message board. Said, look, just in case anybody thinks it, Lane Kiffin's not going to UCLA.
Yeah, no.
Forget it. Have a good weekend. I did that on Friday.
No.
UCLA it's a weird deal across all sports. I think you're at a turning point in that athletic department's future endeavors of how much do you really care? Because football, basketball, baseball, the big three, it's so bizarre to me. Now, football's been down recently. They had some the program bucked its head a little bit with Chip Kelly, but for the most part, not great. Basketball, super successful with Mick Cronin. He's a great coach. Baseball, phenomenal program, consistent, competing for the Pac-12, competing to get to Omaha. It's just, I was trying to explain it to people. I was like, LA is such a pro sports town, and you're in Los Angeles, you're in California. Like, people want to do other things besides watch or go to college sports. That was kind of my thing with anytime Kiffin was ever brought up. It was, well, Kiffin's not going back to SC after what happened, which I agree. Maybe he'd go to UCLA is like, hey, I'm back. I'm going to be at your rival now. Kiffin complains about attendance at Ole Miss games. What do you think he's going to do at UCLA games? Like,
At the Rose Bowl.
I mean, it's such a weird deal because so much history at that school with the big three sports, and it's just so weird. And
Yeah.
I get it. I get people in LA County and wanting to do other things. But yeah, I mean, maybe Deshaun Foster will be great. I truly, hand up, had no idea who was going to be on that hot board. No clue.
I'm shocked by the hire, and I didn't think Lane was in the mix this time because Landry's in Oxford, and he's not going anywhere. He's built this program. It's 2024 is the last dance, all that stuff. So I had no concerns this cycle, but I have said for a few years that of the jobs that would concern me about Kiffin leaving, that is not the NFL. I think if he gets an NFL offer, just like every coach in college football today, as we're seeing, continue to play out, the second an NFL opportunity gets presented to them, they're gone. So do I think Lane leaves for the NFL? Sure, probably. But other than that, I've been saying for years, people have been asking, because they think I have this direct line of communication with Lane, which is not the case. Where would he go? Like why would he leave? What schools would he consider? I've said Alabama. That obviously didn't happen because I think Ole Miss probably got pretty lucky with some of the timing there. And I've said UCLA because of the LA connection. He can go back and he can be out with, Layla and the kids who are no longer there. But then now you're looking at a situation like you keep saying, this job is weird. Chip left for a lot of reasons. He saw the writing on the wall. They probably should have just fired him in November because now they look awfully silly out there in Westwood. He left for a lot of reasons, but there was a quote that really stood out to me. He said a few weeks ago, so this was even before he was in the mix for the Seahawks job, et cetera. Chip Kelly said something to the effect that he was about to go out recruiting, and someone said, "Oh, go pitch him on that LA weather," and he said something to the effect of "NIL trumps weather any day." So there just isn't a ton of support at that program, and it's really curious to see what Deshaun Foster is going to do. I mean, I'm really surprised by this hire. Could it be a great hire? Sure. You're injecting a lot of life, young guy, like great player. I think he was an All-American back there in like 2001. I remember watching him as a kid.
Yeah, he set the school record 301 yards against Washington and tied a record with 4 touchdowns. Both were broken by Maurice Jones-Drew eventually. But yeah, second team All-American. Like crazy high school career. USA Today Player of the Year. I think for his career, he ran for almost 6,000 yards. His senior season, he ran for 2 yards shy of 4,000 and had 59 touchdowns. So
that's ridiculous. You know who beat him that senior season in the CIF finals was Carson Palmer. So that was pretty cool. But I mean, this goes to say, like, when you're looking at Lane Kiffin, did we have any concern about him leaving this offseason? No, not at all. He's staying.
I don't even think Bama was on the table because I don't think he would get the autonomy he gets at Ole Miss.
Exactly. And
so Saban had it, but I don't think I don't think DeBoer's getting that.
No, and I don't think Saban even had it to the same extent that Lane does in Oxford. They really let him do his thing. I mean, he went from fishing in Destin with Sally to the freaking Super Bowl overnight. I mean, yes, it's the off season, sure, that's fine. Yeah. But like other coaches aren't doing that. So now when you look at where could Lane go next, he's not. And that's pretty nice. I mean, UCLA was a concern of mine because of the Los Angeles connection. Alabama was a concern of mine because it's Alabama. You don't see him going anywhere else. He's not going to Ohio State if Ryan Day gets canned. He's not going to Michigan if the Sharon hire doesn't work out. Like, you're looking at a situation where now that UCLA is filled, all of the schools that have concerned me since Lane was first hired in 2020 about a potential departure in the future, those jobs are done. Those jobs are full. Yeah. And that's great news. If you're in Oxford, you're comfortable knowing Lane is here, certainly this year. Probably the next 2 years until Landry finishes up, and then he's only leaving, in my opinion, for the NFL. So this is all great news. Everything's coming up gravy, and now you're just hope that the basketball team and the baseball team can find the success that Lane has.
Yeah. Shout out to Sally for rocking the Redfish taco hat too.
Yeah,
The
that was
real
dope.
ones know.
Yeah,
Shout out to Red
the real
Fish,
ones
so.
do know.
All right, that'll do it for this Monday edition of the show. Like I said, we'll probably try to come up with some kind of podcast name. We'll get some. We'll get the.
I'll hit the lab.
We'll get the. Yeah, I was say we'll get the research team on that and try to come up with something. But yeah, appreciate everybody joining. Thank you as always to College Corner for powering the show and the Talk of Champions studio. Appreciate Grayson hopping on with us this Monday after the Super Bowl.
Always a pleasure.
For everybody else out there that's most likely having an admin day and relaxing, appreciate y'all tuning in. So for Grayson over there, I'm Zach. This has been Talk of Champions Short Sessions. Until next time, we out.